Welcome to the PR Wind Down Podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April Margulies and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down.
Hey, April, I hear our guest, Allie, joining.
Do you hear her or see her?
I sense...
You sense Allie? All right,
sense Allie.
Sweet, let's let her in. So our guest today is Allie Ullo. She is a high energy, passionate, and super organized professional who is our lifestyle group director here at Trust Relations. She has client experience across lifestyle, hospitality, fashion, health and wellness, entertainment, and event industries. And she offers really creative thinking for brand positioning, events, strategic sponsorships, and PR campaigns. So we're very excited to have Allie on. She's a total media maverick, and she's going to talk to us about affiliate pitching and also effective tactics for media outreach. Hey, Allie, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for joining our podcast.
Yeah, anytime.
Allie is one of the best media relations professionals I have met in my entire life. And this is coming from somebody who started her career as a media relations specialist because I was a former journalist. So I sort of cut my teeth being the media relations specialist, but I still bow to Allie. So
that's nice. Thank you.
I have learned things from Allie that I had never heard before. So yes,
I tried.
But don't tell anybody that. You don't want anybody to be like, I have to go steal her away.
So Allie, I want to first ask you, because Laura was asking me about this the other day. When it comes to pitching affiliate links, how long ago did this become a thing? And how has it changed recently?
It's actually been around kind of a while. I think even like 4 or 5 years ago, I started kind of hearing about it, here and there, but it didn't seem to be like, well, we can't actually cover you if you're not with an affiliate program that we work with. That was never really part of the conversation until about 2 years ago. I started coming up with products that I thought were really awesome. And I was going to the, contacts I had gone for years and they were like not biting. And I was like, something has to be going on. The PR industry is always changing. And I was like, I must have missed something. Like, I don't know why this stuff isn't getting placed. And so I just started asking and being like, why are you not publishing my client? It seems so perfect for your column or so perfect for what you're writing about. Why aren't you including them? And they were like, oh, well, we really rely heavily on affiliate now, and we don't really have that much room to make, editorial choices that are not in our affiliate program. And it started happening again and again and again. And then I was like, I need to deep dive on this because it's clearly a game changer. And it's either I roll with the punches and figure this out and can find a way to weave it into what I'm offering in terms of my services and what we can do as a PR company to help a brand, or we're going to lose a lot. So I did some super research and really just started to dive in. And, I happened to work with a couple startups at the time that were like, oh yeah, maybe. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask them if I can run their affiliate program and not have them pay me for it, just so I can learn it and figure it out.
Interesting.
It was like a couple small jewelry companies or something that like, I think, Refinery 29 and Condé Nast and Hearst have given pushback and been like, oh yeah, we love the jewelry. It's so cute, but here's why we can't do it. And so I just started researching and I was like, well, can you tell me, to the editor, I was like, what affiliate programs is your company working with? And they gave me a list and I researched them all and found the cheap version. And I actually had an editor who was kind enough to be like, ShareSale is the easiest entry point to have a small startup like this company do it, and then do it on Skimlinks, which is a third-party aggregator. And I think you'll see that you'll get a lot more traction. And all of a sudden, they were included in everything. And I was like, oh man, this is, And then now at this point, I don't even onboard a client at this point without telling them that they have to be on affiliate. I won't really take a product unless they're on some sort of affiliate basis. And sometimes that means Amazon, because Amazon's an affiliate. Walmart.com is an affiliate. Target.com is an affiliate, right? They all do kickbacks too. So, but that means that, the client has to know you're not linking back directly to their site. So if they want you to link back directly to their site, then they have to buy into these affiliate programs, unless, I have one client who is not on them, but her product is just so different and it seems like it caught on like wildfire that people tend not to care. And she's like the 5% of products on the list that
Wow.
are not affiliate based, but that's really rare and I don't recommend it. And I don't really like having clients come on that aren't willing to be on it, because now it's such a paid thing that you have to be willing to give that kickback, and 5% isn't enough. They can't be like, oh yeah, I'll do it, and they can have 3%. It's never going to work. You're not going to get picked. So you have to be willing to sort of like work in the percentages in your category that are normal for that category or even above, so that you can get picked above your competitors.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wow. So
But
this
it makes
is
sense. It makes sense, because think about all this advertising, all these, especially for Condé and Hearst, all those years of in books, and now so many of them no longer have an in book. They're not getting advertising dollars. And I even find some of my clients will be like, oh, we'd really love to do a paid advertorial with Refinery 29. Well, great. That'll be $50,000 at a minimum. And you don't even get to make any direction at 50K. You don't get to start making direction until you're in a 75 to 100K. Right. And that's, so when you
wow.
start
You mean when you
about,
say direction, you mean in terms of like what it says or looks like or
Mhm.
the content? Okay.
Yeah, you have very little control when you're going in without a big number. At 50K, they're like, oh, we'll add you into this other thing we're doing, but we'll link back, but we won't put you on social. Or, I have a client who just paid $100,000 for an advertorial in a big publication, and they are not giving them any social posts. They're doing one dark post, and they refuse to do social at that price range. And they're not allowed to use the photos from that shoot that they're doing past 3 months. And they're not allowed to use them in any paid fashion. They wanted more money if they were going to use it to boost, social media ads, or even if they wanted to add it to their site to like a detail page of, something, they were like, that'll cost more money.
Wow.
So it starts to get really expensive. So the only way that they can continue to work and look organic but still make money is through affiliate.
Do you think this came about because of all the influencer relations activities that were starting to blur the lines with media relations, and it just became a thing? Or
I think it started because all of those magazines got cut, and it used to cost a ton, and everyone wanted to be in the September issue of whatever, right? Like every magazine that came out in fall, everyone was willing to spend all of their marketing dollars to be in those magazines. And when they all got cut and no one was buying them anymore and no one was advertising anymore and they lost all this revenue, I think they started to be like, how could we get on it? And I think it started then. And then I think with the influencer stuff, it's cut in, right? Because now for a while, those big tiered influencers, you were getting more bang for your buck if you were spending $20,000 with an influencer than if you were spending $20,000 for an ad in a magazine. And so how are they ever going to compete with an influencer that's getting them more sales, more views, more anything? They had to find a way to sort of get in and be getting a little bit, but also not look greedy, or that, that they were going to be like too much that people would just stop doing anything with them altogether.
So interesting. And are there affiliate programs that the media is gravitating towards? So are there ones that you recommend to clients they have to be on?
Yeah, I almost always, without a doubt, recommend, there's kind of like different categories of them. ShareSale is a really basic, super ugly platform, not super user-friendly, but it's affordable and it gets the job done. And I would say 90% of platforms use it. And then there's third-party aggregators, the biggest one being Skimlinks. And basically what that means, your ShareSale hooks up to your Skimlinks, and Skimlinks can kind of blast out to publishers for you. Most of my clients aren't paying for Skimlinks to really be in touch. It's like a very basic thing. And I oftentimes will do that for them. I'll reach out to the girl from Skimlinks and say, hey, my client is doing 30% off for Mother's Day, and we can offer a discount code, and I can put all of that in the program for each individual, whoever I want to boost, and give them more incentive to want to include it in their Father's Day gift guide or their holiday gift guide or whatever, because they'll get a bigger kickback. But then there's big ones that have been around a really long time. Reward Style is technically an affiliate, right? And that's what you were talking about. That's how the influencers started. So that's sort of how they stole the idea of this percentage from what you sell or what sells after they promote it, right? So Reward Style, you can totally be on Reward Style and do affiliate that way to work with influencers. Rakuten is a huge one. That's a very expensive one. And they're known mostly, it's like sort of affiliate programs where they do kind of everything for you. I would say most people that I've talked to don't like it. It's really expensive and they don't feel like they have any real control over stuff. When CNN_ comes to me and says, I want you to offer X percentage for this 2 weeks, I can just go in for my clients on the back end, handle it. I make myself an iCal that says remove this after those 2 weeks, instead of having to go through all of this stuff with the third party, and it becomes like a whole thing. So I like sort of the grassroots of the share a sale skim links combo. I feel like it's a great way to be able to sort of still control stuff and reach out to people a bit more organically, where some of those big ones like Rakuten are not as easy to work with. And I think the only time they work is when you're really trying to pay a third party to be like, just handle it. I don't have the time or the energy to do this. You handle it.
And is this just for consumer goods, gift guides and top 10 lists, or, like, is it all the PR? Like, what if you're doing, a little bit of a bigger story about your company that happens to create consumer products?
It depends what it's on. If you're on like a lifestyle publication that's doing a feature story, they're still going to link it back
Through the affiliate.
Right. That's right. Even USA Today has affiliate stuff. But when you're talking about breaking news stories, no. Those aren't product pushing, but anywhere that you're talking about the feature of someone and the product that they've launched or whatever they've done, they're always trying to optimize it to be able to make money, right? They're optimizing it for a monetary value if they can.
And I mean, I'm just going to state the obvious, but people reading this don't know that that's what's happening, right?
No, but you can easily find out. So when you click on a Father's Day gift guide at a big publication and click on the product link where it's driving you to go shop, when it says like shop now at whatever.com at that client, click on it, and the link at the top, it will say the affiliate website before it goes to the brand's website. So you can see automatically what it's going through. So I always check it when I send to my client, because most of the time it's definitely through share a sale or skim links. And sometimes, if you have clients that are on Amazon or whatever, they link it directly to Amazon, but you'll almost always see as soon as you click through, they've optimized it. And they can find you unless you make yourself invisible, which I make all my clients very visible. You can always ask to work with any of my clients if I'm setting it up on the back end. And so it's really easy that you can also get picked up. So I've also recently really found that so many editors are finding brands through Instagram ads. Let's just say someone's doing like a swimwear story and they've been saving for months. For whatever reason right now, my Instagram is all it's giving me is swimwear. I must have like one swimwear ad and now it's all that I am serviced. But so say like an editor is like, I like these and saving them all and waiting because she knows she's about to do 30 best swimwear companies that you should be shopping for summer. She'll check them all on their affiliate platform that the company uses and see which ones offer back. And then that's how she'll choose which ones get picked. And they go as far to, depending on who is offering the biggest percentage, gets higher up listed. So if it's a list of 30, number 1 is most likely offering the largest affiliate amount, whereas 30 may be the organic one the editor really likes the best, but couldn't get any monetary value off of.
Oof.
After I learned this stuff from you, I told people even older than me who had been in PR for many years, they were aghast that this goes on.
It saved some of my clients early on when I started to realize it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the problem I've been having. And then once I researched it, it was like all of a sudden they were getting included in all the stuff, all the work we had done came to fruition, right? It can often feel like I'm doing all this hard work. Why isn't it paying off? Like as a publicist, like we kind of know when we've been talking to this editor, they seem super interested. It's going to turn into something. And then it doesn't. It feels like, what is wrong with me? And it's not you. It's not even them. It's out of everyone's control.
So it's a combination of pay for play and earned, right?
Yes, it's a combo, which is like a very weird thing. And also, I think at this point, everyone's on affiliate except startups who just don't know about it yet, or even brands who've been around a really long time are probably on like an Amazon or Walmart or Nordstrom or something that's considered an affiliate that people can always grab a link to if they're really into it. So it's these startups that get kind of screwed, for lack of a better word, because they're never going to be found because they don't know that this exists. But everyone's on there. So now, they have this whole portfolio that they can just switch through, and they go in there and they can say swimwear. And then they be like, here are the brands that offer these affiliate things in swimwear. And when you're not on it, they're not even going to consider you most likely unless it's a brand they actually wear. So many of the platforms now call it an editor preferred list. Calling it the preferred, I'll add you to the preferred list. Oh, okay, sure. The preferred
That's a
list.
euphemism.
Yeah, what you mean is you prefer to be paid, but sure, add me to the preferred list.
That's so funny. So how do you pitch editors with the affiliate links? Do you mention it up front that they're on it and the percentage that they offer, or is that too offensive?
No, I straight up just say it now. I just put it in the subject line, affiliate opportunity and / best swimwear for summer. So then they can be like, oh yeah, I'm working on something for that and it needs to be affiliate, and then they'll open it. And then sometimes I think there's so many renditions of it. If we started out with a new client that was consumer, I wouldn't go out right away and use that right off the bat, but it would be mentioned in the email pretty far up. I put like, oh, hey, this snack box or something, and then right in parentheses on affiliate networks, right? I put it right in parentheses right after I mentioned the brand name. And I do that because now they're actually like, oh, I can read farther on. This is an actual possibility of something I could use. When I'm desperate for press for a client and I'm like, I think affiliate's the only way we're going to get press for them, it goes right in the subject line. And there's editors who that's all they do. They're just affiliate editors. You can look them up in Muckrack. You can look them up in Cision and just put in affiliate editor. Just like there's an Amazon editor. There's just editors who deal with the commerce affiliate things. And you can go to them and say, here's my new brand, or here's the brand I work with. Here's the affiliate networks they're on. And I like to give them an opening offer and say, here's what we can start with, but I can offer you 5% boost of the affiliate during Father's Day weekend or during, whatever it is. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'll add you to the preferred list. And I would say 8 times out of 10, you get included in the preferred list if you do that. Not all the time, because again, it is partly organic. So if they really don't like the brand, I've had affiliate editors come back and say, hey, I circulated this to the team of shopping editors and no one's organically interested. So we would never add it to the list because no one wants to write about it anyway.
I see.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
I know.
So Allie, can you share some of the sort of off the beaten path techniques you use to get press?
Sure. I don't know that I necessarily feel like what I do is always off the beaten track. I follow a ton of PR accounts, PR accounts as in the agency accounts that have clients that would be similar to clients that I work on. And I just constantly follow the press that they're posting about what they've been able to get for their client. And I save it. I even have folders in my Instagram that are, tech, wellness, because I think we all know that the best way to get press is really specific targeting. And so I think when you're doing that, you have to just be like constantly on the pulse. And I just can't read every paper and every publication every day. So I think like a really great way to do it is to just fill your feed with PR agencies who post their press and then save in folders stuff that feels relevant to the clients that you're working on.
So smart.
It's so psychotic, but it really does work.
And I know that Google alerts are not that off the beaten path, but I know that you use those heavily too, right?
I do use Google alerts heavily, but I think a lot of people make the mistake of just putting in their Google alerts like their client and, but I actually put key terms that have to do with that client in Google alerts. So if I have a menswear company that specializes in polos, my keyword would be men's polos or men's swimwear. I even have terms in the holiday season. My Google alerts, I have holiday gift guide under 50. I start to really go crazy, but it pulls them all up. And then again, it's another resource so that when you start pitching the next day and you saw that you have 10 Google alerts that came in for holiday gift guide and you're starting to pitch those, now you know that those publications are already writing about holiday gift guides. And I didn't need to look at every single site to find those. And I already have a pool of people that I can start going out to and be like, hey, I just saw you already started working on holiday gift guides. What else are you working on? Here are my clients. Here's what else I can offer you. So I think a super key is just kind of trying to constantly find ways to set yourself up for success.
And what were you saying about using different words or subject lines?
Yeah, so I test subject lines. So instead of just sticking with something, pick a subject line and I'll send it to like 2 people and then I'll change it a little bit and I'll send it to someone else. And the idea is when you want to think about the psychology of someone reading a subject line is the first two words are kind of what they're reading. So you switch that around and keep trying to get words that feel like they could be relevant to what that editor is writing about or would be interested in. I test them for the first, I would say 10 to 15 people, every 2 to 3 people I change the subject line. And I would say most of the time, there'll be like 1 or 2 subject lines that are the only ones that get responses to. And then I start using those consistently. But you can find really fast kind of like things that are working and things that aren't. And I found sometimes you go out with a subject line to someone and they don't respond, and you follow up with a different subject line and they suddenly respond, right? So, you had 5 editors that you sent the same pitch to with a different headline, but now you have this new subject that you're like, oh, I've gotten a higher open rate. Switch it over, follow up with them, and don't make it with the RE in the front. Literally resend them the exact same email with the new subject line. And I find that I end up getting more, and
like
they probably haven't opened it anyway.
We're creating a new pitch.
Yeah. Because think about how they're going through their inbox, right? They're either
they probably didn't even know that you
it's
had
either
pitched them
going
before.
in the trash or they've already filed it away. And if they've already filed it away and you repitch them, most editors will be like, oh, hey, thanks for sending. I filed this away. I'll let you know when I can use it. And then now you don't bother them, right? But if they haven't answered you, try again. If you really feel like it's a good fit, don't blast aggressively that way. But if you're targeting someone that you're like, I know this is a good fit for you, why aren't you answering me? It's probably because your subject line was nothing that they're like, that means nothing to me. That's not of interest. And they're getting 200 emails a day. So, it's going up. It has to be interesting enough that when they look at it,
And what about when you're pitching, like, interview my CEO, or why don't you do a story about, a corporate story?
I switch those up too. Those are actually the ones I switch up the most. I think gift guides and really like straight commerce, I make them really simple. Holiday gift guide, alarm clocks, like keep it simple. Like, gonna file that away and use it if they can, and make sure that your email is stupid proof. High res images, affiliate account information so they can get it if they want to, pricing, website, all the things. So they don't even have to come back to you if they don't want to. And then I think when you're going to a feature, that's when you really want to test the terms, because most of the time we're not also lucky to be working with CEOs or people that anyone's even remotely heard of. So your subject line needs to sound as though, to make an editor almost be like, oh, this is someone I should know and I don't. Oh God, I should probably read this. You don't want it to come across as like hey, do you want to interview this person you've never heard of and probably don't care about? And I think a lot of subject lines just feel like that when you're like, CEO of whatever.com is really interested, has just started a new thing. And you're like, didn't know who that person was to begin with. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is, the CEO who started 10 companies, the CEO who started 10 companies that no one's ever heard of is still no one.
Whereas if you were putting like Bob Smith revolutionizing the auto industry, they probably open that one.
Right. And it has to be something super interesting that feels like very relevant. And I tend to, for people who no one knows, right? Everyone knows who Mark Cuban is. They're going to open that email. No one knows who Joe Schmo is. So like, what is he commenting on, or what is his company doing that's so different? So if their company is not that interesting, then it's like in the subject line. I've had a lot of luck recently with tips in certain sectors. So like 4 different ways to wear the same polo from the, fashion team at XYZ, like trying to find content that if they could write that, then the story is sort of, it's done for me. All I have to do is add filler to it. And so you have to move that subject line around a lot, right? Putting the CEO of XYZ in the front, you've already failed. No one's opening that.
And I'm assuming you're tracking all this through Streak?
I track it through Streak, and so, you can kind of see, like, have they opened it 15 times? Maybe go back to them with something that is a little bit stronger, or maybe a little bit more relevant to try and seal the deal. They not even opened it, dude, try something else. Or did they look at it once? That means they looked at it and trashed it. Right.
How many times would you pitch somebody the same topic until you're like, okay, move on? 3, maybe
4 if I'm super confident. Like, if I'm really confident, they're just not getting to it in their inbox and I know
Right.
it's so perfect, I'll keep going. But I try not to go past 3 because the truth is you don't want to be that person that they are starting to block on email because you're annoying. That
Right.
is not what you want to be. I will sometimes be like, yo, I know I've written you like 15 times. I just think it's really perfect. If you really don't like it, just tell me. Right? There's like an honesty that you kind of
Right.
have to have because it's sort of like, it's a ridiculous job to begin with, right? You're just like pitching someone pajamas, you know, and you've emailed them 17 times about pajamas. I had a pajama client like a couple months ago that I was having the hardest time with. And I finally wrote this girl from BuzzFeed and I just knew she was the right person. And I literally wrote in the subject line, you need these pajamas. And she wrote me back, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, I do. Go ahead and send them to me. And she posted like 2 weeks later.
Wow.
But, you know, like be funny. I had emailed her 4 times prior to that and she never opened it because whatever my subject was probably just a boring, like sleepwear for work from home. Blah.
Right.
I yawned just
Organic
thinking about it.
feety pajamas. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was going to say too was I thought it was interesting. I was listening to a seminar not that long ago, and it was from the editor's perspective saying, what should I put in the subject line? What's interesting? And something they were saying about features was that if you leave out the person's name, it comes across as like a startup of someone we don't care about because we've never heard of them. So when you're like the CEO of XYZ company does blah, 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 that you're better off putting the no name in because they might second guess themselves and be like, oh, I should probably know who this is and open
I
it.
think I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
right. Then if you don't bother to put their name, then it's because they're nobody. Right.
They're like, if they're not bothering to put the name in the subject line, then it's not even worth my time to cover.
Interesting.
Yeah,
and you also never know.
really
Maybe a reporter would have happened to have heard of this person for some reason too. Oh, that's
who knows?
interesting.
Yeah, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else that you want to plug or mention?
Not today, you know. No.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Allie. I don't want to keep you. I know it's kind of late.
No worries. Thank you guys so much for having me. It was so fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Allie.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. So, so our what not to do from PR pros who know of the day is what not to do during an interview that's going south.
So a job interview or a media interview?
What not to do if you're a PR pro staffing an interview that's going south.
Oh, well, I actually have more to say about what to do than what not to do.
Okay, well, let's start there.
So if it's really going south, and it's happened to me a couple of times, and usually by going south is that the reporter did a bait and switch and is not actually at all wanting to talk to your client about what they agreed upon or that was pitched to them or that they called you about, or they clearly don't understand what's going on and they are asking all kinds of questions because they have an agenda and they were thinking that you were going to meet up with that agenda, but you don't in any way. So I've had both of those things happen, and in both cases I handled them differently, and I will tell you which one was the better way to have handled it.
Okay.
So one is the version where the reporter sort of bait and switched the spokesperson. Mm-hmm. And I have stepped in and ended the interview because obviously it got contentious and there was no way using any of the bridging terms or tricks of the trade to take a media interview on the right track. None of those tricks were working because the reporter was on a negative path and was not going to be moved off of it.
Right.
So I said, well, this was not what we agreed to talk about. And this is not what my client is here to speak about, nor is he or she an expert on this or knowledgeable about that. So let's take this offline, and reporter, if you're interested in speaking to us about what the company does and about what my client is an expert in, we'll be open to reschedule. That was one way. Another way was I saw it going, it wasn't going as south, but I knew it was off track and that it was a little bit weird, but I let it play out. Because my spokesperson was doing a decent job, I let it play out and I didn't do anything. And then after the story came out, I then had to go back and get things changed and corrected after the story had already run. And it was inaccurate. The story ended up literally being factually inaccurate, and the reporter had to admit it. I mean, it was so far afield about what the company did and what the person who he or she was speaking to was even an expert in.
Wow.
So those were the two ways I dealt with something that was clearly to me going off of track. And which one do you think that I think was more successful?
Oh, definitely intervening and saying this isn't what we agreed to. And
Yep.
if you want to talk about what we agreed to, we can set up another time to chat.
Yep. It was definitely better and easier. What I would say is sometimes things are going off track and you're not really sure. And that was sort of part of why on the second example, I didn't cut it off, because it was something I was new to. It was a new job, so I didn't really know my place.
Mm-hmm.
I've now learned that in a case like that, it is your place. Fortunately, I was able to get that story changed, but it took so much extra time. And, then the spokesperson doesn't want to talk to media ever again because they think that's how every reporter is going to be. And it's just the negative dominoes fell. So if you were 100% sure that it's going south, it's wrong, cut it off.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
smart.
Most interviews aren't so blatantly horrible as the one I described, but it happens. Has it ever happened with you?
Fortunately, not the way that you're describing. I've definitely had situations where the spokesperson wasn't really able to answer the questions that were being asked.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did some jumping in to say, this isn't really this person's core area of expertise, but we have somebody at the company who can speak to that. So why don't we follow up with some answers from them about that topic? Something like that, right? Where it was just too in the weeds. I think it was because the executive was too high level and they didn't have the granular answers,
Right.
Which happens and is totally reasonable. So I think the what not to do that we're hearing is do nothing. I think if it's going south, don't do nothing. Do something. And then, make sure that you jump in and intervene in some way to get it back on track or just end it.
Yeah.
That's a good piece of advice, I think.
I think so too.
So, Laura,
yes.
Are questions clients always ask? I guess the question is, what are the questions clients always ask before they sign their first contract?
Okay.
They usually want to know if it's a 6-month minimum, can it be 3-month minimum? If it's 3-month minimum, can it be month to month? What they don't ask, that they probably should ask, is what happens when the contract is up, because our contract continues month to month the same way a lease does, right? You have a lease in an apartment and you know that you have to give notice before you leave the apartment by at least 30 days or whatever your lease says, right? It's the same with our contract. So clients should ask what happens after, and ideally they should just read the contract to know that answer. And the other thing that they usually ask is, what are the metrics? So what are the KPIs? When are you going to give us a report on how well it went? That kind of thing. They want to have some sort of line in the sand of when do we reevaluate or evaluate how it went. So those are the questions that they seem to ask. I don't know if there's any others that you've experienced that you want to throw out there.
Can I pay less?
Mm-hmm.
Here's how much it will cost. Okay, can I pay less?
Right.
I've had that. That's always fun. Do you want to know what I've said?
Yes, please.
So I've said, okay, yeah. So for like the first 3 months, you can pay less, and then we will have a meeting at the end of 3 months, and then you shall pay more. And then guess what happens? Well, anything could happen, but
I was going to say
one thing that I have run into that happens, that they say at the end of 3 months, I can't pay more even now. And then what do?
You have to have that in a contract up front. You have to say it's a 6-month contract. First 3 months are this, last 3 months are this.
Right. These are things that when you are a newbie starting out as a independent worker or freelancer, you don't realize that people will say yes to something just to get it over with and then never go back and fulfill their end of the contract if it's not in writing.
Definitely.
But the problem is, even if it is in writing and they still say no, what are you going to do? I guess sue them, right? I mean,
Yeah, you sue them.
it's a bummer though.
Or you go to collections or both.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a bummer and it's a huge hassle and it's not what you want to do, but depending
Right.
on how much money they owe you, it can be worth it. And or depending on the principle of the thing, it can be worth it just because that's why we made a legally binding agreement.
Right.
We would both honor and then you didn't. So now that's
Right.
a problem.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do the horror story next. Do you want to read this one?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
All right, here's our horror story du jour. Hi, April and Laura. I have a terrible tale for you.
Oh boy.
I was working with a high-end vacation rental and hotel brand many moons ago and a couple of agencies ago. We had a major musical artist slated to perform a holiday show at one of our most exclusive vacation destinations in Tahiti. Think big. This was a household name, modern pop icon type of a star. Wow, I wonder who it was. I say Beyonce, but that's just me guessing. My team had planned to pitch the announcement as an exclusive. Sadly, I was new to their system and I accidentally sent the press release out to all media 2 days before we were going to start pitching the exclusive. LOL.
Oh my God.
LOL, man. A national tabloid publication picked it up and posted it immediately, as they would. I managed to somehow shift blame to the client, who had already mentioned the performance in small writing on their website prematurely. Woo! Close one. Wow.
Wait, is that the end?
That's it.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Oh God. My stomach is still in my throat from the idea of sending out that whole the release to everybody. Oh.
And then being able to blame it on the client because they had posted on the bottom line of page 9 of their website in 2-point type, and oh my God, I guess you really shouldn't post things prematurely on the website.
That is so funny.
Did you ever screw something up and then you figured out a way to erase blame?
I'm sure of it, but I like to come up with an example. I mean, fortunately, I'm sure it was when I was younger.
Right. I have an example.
Okay, let's hear.
And it was not this bad, but I had a client that was similar to other clients, but I didn't really understand what they did. It was earlydays.com, whatever. And the reporter I was talking to, and I was telling them about this client, and they were all interested in it. It was so exciting. And it was like a real reporter from like Bloomberg or Reuters or something, who's going to do a little blurb on my client, who I believe was, a small publicly traded company. So it was sort of coming at it from the financial angle, but they were talking about the company, and they said, oh, so this company is like XYZ company. And I was young, and I was like, yeah, right. They're just like that client company, right? So the reporter writes the story and says, this company does business or functions just like this other company does, blah, and they totally didn't at all. So my manager was like, that's not what they do. They do like the opposite of that. Why does this story, oh my God, and now it's on the financial, media. Did you tell him that this is what the company does? And I said, no. So why did he write that? I said, I don't know. I don't even know what that other company does. How would I even ever think to compare it to them? I've never even heard of that other company. It wasn't me. It was the reporter. He must have gotten in his head and gone off and done it on his own. Which was not entirely incorrect. Why was he asking, he just took my word for it and wrote a story. I didn't give him information. I didn't tell him that, but I just said, sure, yeah. I didn't argue with him either. So
my God.
My manager had to go back to the report and be like, this is wrong. And why did you write this? And then you have to change the story. This isn't what they do. This is not even in the same, it was like in the same general industry, but not the same strategy at all. And I think she got the reporter to take that part out or change it or something.
Wait, and the reporter didn't out you?
No, because what was he going to say? Well, your underling said yes. Like, is he a reporter or not? It was his idea and I didn't dispute it. It's kind of weird now telling that story. What reporter would do that and not even talking to the company, talking to like the PR person, like, oh, is this what they do? Yeah. And then it goes off and like writes half the story based on a PR person saying,
God.
yeah.
Well, I know mistakes I can remember making include doing too much media outreach back to back in Too Fast and Furious.
Right.
And putting the wrong outlet name or not swapping out the outlet name because I tried to customize it and then I forgot because I had customized it 10 places and one of them got lost. In those instances, I will tell you what has worked for me is to just write them and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, all caps. I was moving too fast. And almost every time they'll respond to you.
I'm sure it happens all the time.
Yeah. And it's like the fact that you caught it and called yourself on it, they actually respect more than if you pretended it didn't happen.
Oh.
And I will tell you, this is a little bit sneaky, but I have actually had instances where I've made a mistake, not on purpose, but knowing that they are more likely to respond to me if I do something like that and write back like really friendly and say, oh my God, I messed up. I sent you the wrong press release, or I forgot the attachment or whatever it is, right? And in those cases, I actually get them to open it more. This is in the past. I don't know if this is still true, but unfortunately I don't pitch as much as I once did. But it would actually get their attention because then they would want to know what I did wrong. And then they would read the pitch.
Right. Had they not noticed it themselves, you pointed it out and then they go, what did she do? What crazy thing did this PR person do?
This person must have really messed up. And then they go to read.
So funny.
Yeah.
In my example, that happened because I didn't want to admit that I didn't know. Because I was young and, you think you're supposed to know everything and you're not supposed to know everything. How would you know everything? Right. And so I just said, because I thought this was some obvious thing, but apparently it wasn't. Yeah.
Wow. What a Hail Mary that person had the client to blame for it.
I know. Oh my God.
I wonder if he or she ever told anyone
the truth.
Yeah. Until now. Like, I wonder if it was ever anyone the agency ever knew or anyone, or if this is like, confession for a PR person, like a secret confession.
Or like priests.
We should change it. The PR confessional.
Maybe we'll have to.
That's really funny. I like that one a lot. It was very brave of whoever.
Brazen? Is brazen the right word there?
It's both. It's both. Laura, are you ready for the closing?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for tuning in for the PR Wind Down podcast.
And thank you to Allie for joining us for today's interview.
Yes, that was awesome. Remember to submit your own agency stories and questions and share our show with your friends and colleagues, because if you subscribe and leave us a rating, then it helps us reach new listeners like you.
And if you have an anonymous PR horror story or a confessional,
a PR confessional
of your own, send it our way at the contact email below the episode notes.
Can't wait to wind down with you again next time.